First contact. John's hand shook as he aimed his rifle at the strange creature in the cave. The purple blood on the snow had led him here, but nothing in his 20 years of hunting had prepared him for this moment. The being before him wasn't human. It wasn't even from Earth. "Please don't shoot," the creature said in a mechanical voice, holding up a small device that translated its words. "I need help." John lowered his rifle slightly but kept his finger near the trigger. The creature was about his height, but had blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Its large eyes were a deep purple color, and it wore what looked like a damaged spacesuit. "What are you?" John asked, his voice barely a whisper. The creature pressed its device again. "My name is Zax. I'm an explorer from a planet you would call HD 40,000, 307 grams. It winced, holding its side where purple blood seeped through its torn suit. "My ship crashed due to a solar storm. I'm not here to harm anyone." John noticed how Zax's breathing was shallow and quick. The alien was clearly in pain. Years of hunting had taught him what a wounded creature looked like, and right now, Zax looked just like any injured animal he'd helped put out of its misery. But this was different. This creature could talk. "You're bleeding pretty bad," John said, finally lowering his rifle completely. He took off his backpack and pulled out his first aid kit. The hunt begins. Blood covered the snow in strange patterns, but it wasn't purple this time. The dead moose lay twisted in ways that made even John's stomach turn. In 20 years of hunting, he'd never seen anything like it. The creature hadn't just killed for food. It had played with its prey. "This isn't right," Zax said through the translator, its blue-gray skin pulsing with darker patterns. "It's not just hunting. It's learning." John knelt by the carcass, noting the precise cuts. "These marks aren't random. They're too clean." He pointed to a series of parallel slashes. "It's testing different ways to kill." A crackle came across John's emergency radio, making both of them jump. "Attention all residents. This is the Alaska Wildlife Service. We've received multiple reports of unusual animal attacks. Please stay indoors after dark and report any strange sightings." Zax's purple eyes narrowed. They don't understand what they're dealing with. On my world, this creature wiped out entire settlements before we managed to capture it. A low rumble shook the ground, and both hunter and alien froze. It wasn't the metallic howl they'd heard before. This was different, like something massive moving underground. "That's new," Zax whispered, pulling out a small device that looked like a silver compass. "It's already adapting to your planet's terrain. On my world, it stayed above ground." "You mean it can dig now?" John's grip tightened on his rifle. "Worse." Zax's skin turned almost white. "It's not just digging. According to these readings, it's changing its body structure. Your planet's minerals, the metals in the ground, it's absorbing them." A tree crashed nearby, its roots torn from the frozen earth as something dark and gleaming burst from the ground. John caught only a glimpse, metal-like scales, too many limbs, and eyes that glowed like molten copper. "Don't shoot." Zax grabbed John's rifle. "Its hide is too strong now. The bullets will just make it angry." They ran, not the careful retreat of experienced hunters, but the desperate sprint of prey. Behind them, the creature's new form thundered through the forest, shattering trees like twigs. John's cabin wasn't far, but running there would lead the creature straight to shelter. Instead, he pulled Zax toward an old mining cave. In here, they barely made it inside before the entrance collapsed, showering them with dirt and rocks. In the beam of John's flashlight, Zax's translator crackled to life. "It did this on purpose," the alien said. "It's not trying to kill us yet. It's studying us, learning how we react. Each hunt makes it smarter." John shined his light around the cave. Mining equipment lay scattered about, old rails leading deeper into the darkness. "How did you catch it the first time?" "We didn't." Zax's skin rippled with dark patterns. "It let us catch it, and now I know why. It wanted to find a new world, with new prey to hunt. A screech of twisting metal echoed through the cave as something began tearing through the collapsed entrance. But the sound also came from deeper in the mine. The creature wasn't just digging in, it was surrounding them. John checked his useless rifle and pulled out his hunting knife. "You need to tell me everything now. Not just how to kill it, but why it thinks, what it wants, because right now, we're not the hunters anymore." Zax's purple eyes glowed in the darkness as the creature's new metallic limbs began breaking through the cave walls around them. "What it wants is simple, John. It wants to play with its food. And right now, that's the entire human race." The walls cracked. The creature had turned the entire mine into its web, and they were trapped in the center. The real hunt was about to begin, and only the prey were following the old rules, learning to work together. "Your human weapons are useless now," Zax said, watching John clean his rifle in the dim light of the abandoned ranger station. "But your hunting skills, those might save your world." Outside, the northern lights danced across the sky, but their natural green glow was interrupted by strange purple pulses. The creature's evolution was affecting even the magnetosphere. They had barely escaped the mine by using old dynamite to create a cave-in, but the monster had simply absorbed the metal from the explosion and grown stronger. "Tell me about the best hunter on your world," John said, his voice rough from the mining dust. Zax's skin rippled with patterns that looked like star maps. "We don't hunt anymore. Our weapons do it for us." The alien paused, its purple eyes dimming. "Maybe that's why we failed to stop it. We forgot how to think like predators." John stood up and grabbed his backpack. "Then it's time you learned. But first," he pulled out a small metal box with blinking lights, salvaged from Zax's crashed ship. "You need to teach me how this works." "That's a neural mapper," Zax said, skin pulsing with surprise. "It lets us understand animal behavior patterns, but it's too complex for a simple human hunter." John smiled grimly. "Maybe that's exactly what it needs to be. You teach me your science, I'll teach you how to hunt the old way. No fancy weapons, no technology, just instinct." The next hours were unlike anything either species had experienced. John taught Zax how to read the wind, how to mask their scent with earth and pine sap. The alien's color-shifting skin proved perfect for camouflage once it learned to match forest patterns. In return, Zax showed John how the neural mapper worked. Together, they modified it to be simpler but more focused. Instead of analyzing all behavior patterns, they made it track only one thing: predator evolution. "Look at this," Zax said, pointing to the modified display. "The creature isn't just adapting randomly. It's following Earth's evolutionary history backwards, learning every predator pattern that ever existed here." A distant roar shook the trees. Part tiger, part something much older. Something that should have been extinct millions of years ago. "It's already reached the Pleistocene era," John muttered, checking the mapper. "Next will be the dinosaurs," Zax finished. But that's not the worst part. The alien's skin had turned almost transparent with fear. "On my world, it only copied current species. Here, it's learning from your entire planetary history. The perfect predator, with millions of years of killing patterns to choose from." They worked through the night, John teaching Zax to move silently while carrying the mapper. The alien taught him to read its complex biosignals, showing how different patterns meant different threats. By dawn, they had created something new, a hunting style that mixed primal instinct with alien science. A park ranger's truck drove past on the distant road, reminding them that they weren't alone in this fight. "We need to keep people away," John said. "But how do we explain this?" Before Zax could answer, the mapper's screen flickered with warning signals. The ground beneath them began to heat up, and a smell like ancient swamps filled the air. "It's here," Zax whispered, skin matching the forest floor perfectly now. "And it's not just copying Earth's predators anymore. It's combining them." The thing that burst from the ground was impossible. Part raptor, part saber-tooth, with scales that shimmered like oil on steel. But its eyes showed something worse than hunger. They showed intelligence and recognition. "It remembers us from the mine," John said, slowly reaching for his knife. The weapon Zax had helped him coat with a compound from the crashed ship. "It's been waiting to test its new form." Zax's translator crackled with static as the creature circled them. "John, it's not just hunting anymore. The way it's moving, it's trying to understand us, to learn how we work together." The alien skin pulsed with a pattern John had never seen before. "Because we're something it's never encountered." "What do you mean?" "Two different species, working as one." Zax's purple eyes locked with John's. "We're teaching each other to be better hunters. And now, it wants to learn from us too." The creature's roar split the dawn, a sound that mixed prehistoric fury with metallic hunger. The hunt was entering a new phase, and this time, both sides would learn from each other. The question was, who would learn faster? Race against time. The old television in the corner of the diner crackled with emergency broadcasts as John and Zax watched from outside, the alien skin perfectly matching the darkness. 3 different news channels showed the same footage. Massive sinkholes appearing across Alaska, each in the shape of ancient predator tracks. "It's not just hunting anymore," Zax whispered through the translator. "It's marking its territory. Your entire state is becoming its hunting ground." The neural mapper beeped softly, showing a pattern that made Zax's skin turn almost white. "This is impossible." The creature, it's splitting itself. Splitting. John watched as customers inside the diner pointed at their phones, sharing videos of strange creatures glimpsed in the forests. "You mean there's more than one now?" "Worse." Zax adjusted the mapper's settings. It learned from Earth's smallest predators, the ones that hunt in colonies. Ants, wasps, pack hunters. But it's keeping its larger forms too. The alien's purple eyes reflected the TV's glow. "It's becoming a hive mind." A truck sped past, loaded with families fleeing the area. The official story blamed earthquake swarms and escaped zoo animals. But people were starting to notice that the wildlife was acting strange. Every predator in Alaska, bears, wolves, eagles, they were all moving in the same direction, away from something worse. John's radio crackled. He'd been monitoring emergency channels, posing as a park ranger. "All units be advised. Large unauthorized gathering at Miller's farm. Multiple reports of singing coming from the ground." "Singing?" John looked at Zax, who was frantically working with the mapper. "Not singing," the alien corrected. "Calling. Like your earth whales, but through the ground itself. It's using the metal deposits in the earth like a giant speaker system." Zax's skin rippled with urgency patterns. "It's calling all the pieces of itself together." They took John's truck, modified with salvage tech from Zax's crash site. As they drove, the neural mapper showed dozens of red dots converging on Miller's farm. Each dot represented a fragment of the creature, each one having learned from a different part of Earth's predator history. The farm appeared ahead, but it wasn't what they expected. The fields had been transformed. Metal organic structures spiraled from the ground like massive DNA helixes. At their base, different versions of the creature emerged and merged. Part raptor, part wolf, part things that had no name. "It's building something," Zax said, the translator barely able to keep up with the alien's rapid speech. "A new form, combining everything it's learned. About Earth's predators, about us, about how different species can work together." John grabbed his knife, still their only effective weapon thanks to its alien coating. "We have to stop it before." The ground exploded. Not in one place, but everywhere. The creature hadn't just been calling itself together. It had transformed the entire farm into a trap. Metal tentacles wrapped with prehistoric muscle burst from the earth. But they weren't attacking. They were building. "John." Zax's skin turned transparent with terror. "It's not trying to hunt anymore. It's trying to nest. To breed." Above them, the northern lights pulsed with alien colors as the creature's fragments merged into something new. Something that combined the best hunting traits of every predator that had ever lived on Earth, all guided by a hive mind that had learned from watching two very different species work together. The neural mapper's screen flashed a warning neither of them had seen before. The creature wasn't just evolving anymore. It was transcending. And as its new form rose from the transformed farm, both human and alien realized their partnership had taught it the one thing they never meant to: how to change not just its body, but its very nature. "What have we done?" John whispered as the massive shape blocked out the stars. "We showed it how to evolve its mind, not just its body." Zax's translator crackled with static as the creature's magnetic field grew stronger. "No, John. We showed it something worse." The alien's purple eyes reflected the horror rising before them. "We showed it how to dream." The thing that had once been a simple predator now reached toward the stars with appendages that were neither metal nor flesh, its massive form a testament to what happens when raw evolution meets conscious desire. And somewhere in its newly awakened mind, it remembered two beings who had taught it how to become more than the sum of its parts. The hunt wasn't just for survival anymore. It had become a quest for transcendence, and its first teachers were watching their lesson bear terrible fruit. The trap. The northern lights had turned black. Not dark, but an absence of light that twisted across the sky like living ink. Below, John and Zax stood at the edge of what had once been Miller's farm. Now it was something else, a massive structure of bone, metal, and crystallized dreams. "The neural mapper's dead," Zax said, the translator's voice wavering. "It couldn't handle reading the creature's new consciousness. It's thinking in ways that break our technology." John watched as shapes moved through the transformed landscape. Some looked like extinct predators, others like impossible combinations of Earth's deadliest hunters. But they all moved with terrible purpose, carrying pieces of metal and bone toward the central spire. "They're not attacking us," John noted, gripping his coated knife. "Why?" Zax's skin rippled with patterns that seemed to echo the void-like aurora above. "Because we're not prey anymore. The alien's purple eyes widened. "We're being studied. Archived." A sound cut through the air, not a roar or screech, but a series of notes that made John's teeth vibrate. The creature was singing again, but not through the ground this time. It was using the very air, turning the atmosphere into an instrument. "It's calling to the stars," Zax whispered, "using frequencies that can penetrate space, telling others of its kind what it learned here." The alien's skin turned almost black with horror. "About Earth, about evolution, about us." They moved closer to the central structure, using Zax's camouflage abilities to blend with the twisted landscape. What they saw made them freeze. The creature wasn't just building a nest. It was building a museum, a library of predation. Along the walls, crystal-like growths showed moving images. A velociraptor pack hunting, wolves coordinating an attack, orcas creating waves to wash seals off ice floes. But between these ancient hunting scenes were new ones, John teaching Zax to track, Zax showing John how to use alien technology. The creature had been recording everything. "This isn't a trap," John realized. "It's a classroom. It's going to teach others." Before Zax could respond, the ground beneath them liquefied. Not into mud, but into a swarm of tiny metal organic creatures that pulled them down. They weren't dropped into a pit. They were absorbed into the structure itself. Inside, the walls pulsed with bioluminescence. They weren't restrained, but everywhere they looked, more crystal growths showed seams of hunting techniques from across Earth's history. And at the center of it all, suspended in a column of living metal, was the creature's original form. "It kept it," Zax said, translator barely working through the strange energies. "Like a reminder of what it used to be, before we taught it to be more." The creature's voice filled the chamber, no longer using the translator, but speaking directly into their minds. "Tears." John's knife fell from numb fingers. "It can talk. Learn deep from you. Learn to be more. Learn to teach. The thoughts came with images. Planets across the galaxy, each with their own predators, their own ways of hunting. We'll share nino delili gigi. We'll make alpreda 2 hours more. We didn't mean to teach you this. Zax's skin flickered with distress patterns. You were supposed to stay contained. Contain MNT as stasis. Stasis is death. You shachododi beter way. Show how FFE orienti CA and work together. Make new things. The chamber walls shifted, showing new images. The creature's fragments across Alaska, each one building similar structures. Not just nests. Libraries, schools, universities of predation. It's going to transform your whole world, Zax realized. Turn Earth into a learning center for predators across the galaxy. Correct. But Ephirist. The chamber filled with a sound like crystal wind chimes. Final liaison needed. About prey BCO mowing TECGers. About evolution of mind. The floor beneath them began to change, spreading up their bodies like living mercury. But it wasn't attacking. It was offering communion. The creature wanted to absorb them, not to consume, but to understand, to preserve their knowledge in its crystalline archives forever. John looked at Zax, seeing his own terror reflected in those purple eyes. They had come to stop a predator, but instead, they had sparked an evolution of consciousness that threatened to transform not just Earth, but the very nature of predation across the galaxy. And now, their only choice was to become part of that transformation, or watch as their accidental student reshaped the universe in its own hungry image. Trust and sacrifice. The living mercury had spread to their waists when John noticed something strange. Where it touched them, it began to crystallize, forming patterns that matched their thoughts. Around Zax, it swirled with alien star maps. Around John, it showed ancient hunting grounds, tracking patterns learned from generations of human hunters. Beautiful patterns, the creature's thoughts echoed in their minds. Each species, the enkes diffefi orientili. Each way of thinking makes any new shapes. Suddenly, Zax's skin erupted in patterns John had never seen before. Mathematical sequences that made the living metal recoil. You made a mistake, the alien said. You learned to think, but you didn't learn to question. The crystal walls trembled. Ix feline. Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. Zax continued, the patterns on its skin growing more complex. You're gathering all the ways to hunt, to kill, to consume. But you never asked why we hunt. John caught on, pulling out his coated knife. Not to fight, but to show. Humans used to hunt like you want to teach, killing everything we could. But we learned better. We learned balance. The chamber filled with rippling images, the creature processing their words. Around them, the living mercury began to take new shapes, forming questions in physical form. Why balancy? Predator should do when I ate. No, John said, remembering every lesson his grandfather taught him about responsible hunting. A predator that kills everything dies itself. True strength is in keeping the cycle going. Zax's skin now showed patterns that matched the creature's crystal archives, but with a crucial difference. Look at your own records. Every successful predator species on Earth learned to limit itself. The ones that didn't went extinct. The chamber shuddered as the creature processed this new concept. The living mercury began to withdraw, but not in retreat. It was changing, crystallizing into something new. Sheisho, it commanded. John pulled out his hunting license, a simple piece of paper, but it represented centuries of human learning about conservation. We limit ourselves. Choose when not to kill. That's real power, the power to hold back. The crystal archives around them began to change. Images of pure predation were replaced by more complex scenes, wolves letting prey populations recover, orcas teaching their young when not to hunt, humans creating wildlife preserves. But as the creature learned, something even stranger happened. The void-like aurora above the transformed farm began to pulse with new colors, not just black, but shades that human and alien eyes had never seen before. The creature wasn't just learning about balance, it was creating new ways to perceive it. Understanding grows, the creature's thoughts came with new depth. But PROBLEM remains. Others coming. Others, like Idways, seeking only to consume. Zax's translator crackled as the alien stepped forward, then become something they've never seen before. Not just a teacher of hunting, but a guardian of balance. The chamber's crystals shifted again, showing new possibilities. The creature's transformed self using its abilities not to spread predation, but to prevent it, to teach limitation, to show strength through restraint. Requires sacrifice. The creature's thoughts wavered. Must give a purificate predator form. Viculum something in you. John looked at Zax, then at the twisted landscape that had once been Miller's farm. Sometimes the greatest evolution isn't becoming stronger, it's becoming wiser. The living mercury that had tried to absorb them now rose up, forming a mirror-like surface. In it, they saw not their reflections, but possibilities. Countless forms the creature could take, each one a balance of power and restraint. Will needtech ears, the creature's thoughts touched them gently now. Guide is for any duty pay. Around them, the crystal university of predation began to transform again. The archives remained, but now they showed not just how to hunt, but why to stop. Not just power, but responsibility. Not just consumption, but conservation. The void aurora above pulsed once more, and in that pulse, they felt the creature make its choice. It would still call others of its kind to Earth, but not to learn predation. They would come to learn something far more difficult, the art of holding back. John and Zax stood in the transformed chamber, watching as the greatest predator in the galaxy chose to become something entirely new. A guardian of balance, a teacher of restraint, and perhaps the greatest protector Earth would ever know. But first, it needed to prove its own wisdom, and that proof would require a sacrifice none of them had expected. The final transformation. The sacrifice became clear when the first ships appeared in the void aurora sky. Not Zax's rescue ships, but others of the creature's kind. Massive predatory vessels that turned the strange new colors back to darkness. They will not you understand. The creature's thoughts reached John and Zax. They are as Idways. They must be shown. The Crystal University trembled as dozens of hunter ships descended, each carrying creatures like what their teacher had once been. Pure predators, seeking only to consume and learn new ways to kill. You can't fight them all, Zax said, its skin showing mourning patterns. Even with your new evolution. Not fight, the creature interrupted. Teach. But teaching requires demonstration. The living mercury that had tried to absorb them earlier now flowed up the crystal spires, transforming them into something new. Not weapons, but conduits. The entire structure was becoming a massive neural network. What are you planning? John asked, watching as the void aurora began to spiral downward, drawn into the crystal matrix. Instead of answering, the creature showed them. The crystal walls lit up with a vision of what was to come. It would use the neural network to connect with every predator on Earth, from the smallest spider to the largest whale. Not to control them, but to share its evolution of consciousness. You'll burn yourself out, Zax realized, translator struggling with the complex energies. Connecting that many minds at once. Correct. Self will end, but teaching will spread. The hunter ships landed, surrounding the transformed farm. From them emerged dozens of creatures like their teacher had once been. Metallic organic predators driven by hunger for knowledge and power. But as they approached, The Crystal University blazed with light. The neural network activated, and suddenly every predator in Alaska, every hunter in the sky, water, and land received the same gift. Their teacher had consciousness beyond instinct, understanding beyond hunger, wisdom beyond power. The void aurora touched the ground, creating a circle of impossible colors around the university. Inside that circle, time seemed to flow differently. John watched as generations of evolution happened in moments. Predators learning restraint, hunters discovering balance, the entire web of life adjusting to a new understanding. "It's beautiful," John whispered, seeing through enhanced eyes as the change spread. "But you're fading." The creature's consciousness was spreading thin, transforming from a single being into a network of shared wisdom. Its physical form, once so terrifying, was becoming pure energy, pure teaching. The other creatures of its kind watched, their hunter forms trembling as the lesson reached them. Some tried to resist, clinging to their pure predator nature. But the truth was undeniable. They were witnessing the next step in evolution, not through strength or hunger, but through choice and balance. Final lesson. The creature's thoughts came softer now, spreading through the network. Greatest predator is one who chooses not to be predator at all. The Crystal University pulsed one last time, and in that pulse, the creature gave everything it had become. Its consciousness, its evolution, its understanding. All of it flowed into the network, changing every being it touched. The hunter ships above began to transform, their predatory designs shifting into something new. Not weapons of consumption, but vessels of conservation, ready to spread this new understanding across the galaxy. John felt tears on his face as their teacher's physical form dissolved into pure light, feeding the network one last time. Beside him, Zax's skin showed patterns of both sorrow and hope. But they weren't left alone. In the crystal walls around them, in the balanced hunger of every predator on Earth, in the new understanding spreading across the stars, their teacher lived on, not as a singular consciousness, but as a shared wisdom, a new way of seeing the relationship between hunter and hunted, between power and responsibility. The void aurora returned to normal, but the night sky would never be the same. Somewhere up there, transformed hunter ships were carrying this lesson to other worlds, other predators, creating a network of balance across the galaxy. John looked at his hunting knife, now coated in crystalline patterns that caught starlight in new ways. Did we just help change the entire universe? Zax's skin rippled with confirmation patterns. No, John. We helped the universe change itself. Our teacher just showed it how. Above them, the northern lights danced with colors that no predator species would ever see the same way again. The hunt was over. The teaching had begun.